You're listening to the Mental Money Podcast, the show that shows you how to master your mind to maximize your money. This show is for people who love to watch their bank accounts grow while shifting their relationship to money. Without further ado, let's get these insider insights from today's leading expert.
We're recording. Hi, Andrea. How are you this morning?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you for asking. Today, we're going to be talking about mindset, right?
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about what your credentials are and who you are and why we should be hearing from you about mindset?
Yeah, sure. So I am someone who got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug super early in life. I started my first business when I was 12 years old. Awesome Andrea's babysitting. And, and I was also simultaneously bitten by the mindset bug. I borrowed, quote unquote, a book from my mother about meditation and deep breathing, and I was off to the races. I just instantly, at this young age, made the connection between who you were being and the success of your business. I don't know why I did that. That seems divine to me. But that continued throughout my life. I, dabbled in other people's businesses, being at the forefront and learning about business in other people's spaces. And then launched a catering company when I was 26 years old, continued to do coaching, worked for a leadership development company, and ultimately ended up with my own event planning company, servicing red carpet celebrities, high net worth individuals, and all the while always incorporating working with very high performing coaches and, really, really diving into who I was being in my business, really clear about the fact that our business evolution can be fueled by our personal development. So that is something that's always been key to my growth and development as an entrepreneur. And I'm at this point now in business ownership where it's just time to give back, where it's time to share with other entrepreneurs who want to achieve peak performance and, the go-to strategies, what everybody else is saying you should be doing or, trying tactics isn't working.
Right. No, that's very fair. There's a couple of things that you said that I want to address. One being peak performance. We hear that a lot in this space. And it's kind of one of those things that become a fluff, trigger word, marketing ploy to kind of get us all activated and involved and engaged with whatever the topic is. But how do we quantify that? And it's very subjective. What looks like peak to me, this morning waking up was a struggle. I am performing at my peak right now. Okay, Andrea.
Get it. I get it.
The other days it's just it might be getting through my to-do list. So for everyone it looks different. So how do we quantify peak performance? How do we make that a real tangible thing instead of this fluff thing that we use for marketing?
I get it. Peak performance, it is such a buzz phrase and, such a catchphrase, if you will. And so what does that mean? So how I define it, I think we'd be hard pressed to actually find a dictionary definition. But what that means to me and how I define it is really leaning into your truth, really leaning into who you are and operating from the highest perspective and the highest place that you believe you should be operating from. So, achieve and peak performance then is an evolution. It's more of a journey. It's more of an experience that we are developing along the path as opposed to a place to get to. It's a place to live from as opposed to a place to get to.
Right. That's very fair. For someone whose mind is very analytical, how would you break that down? Because to me, what I'm hearing is kind of get in tune with who you are, how you feel, really kind of being true to yourself could be, okay, what do I need right now? How do I feel right now? But how does someone who has a very
linear, logical way of thinking?
Yeah. How do they make that work for them in a way that's not so feely?
Yeah. So I am a mindset and an intuitive coach. So some of what I do is feely, and there are still methods and tactics and metrics for, assessing our success and whether things have been impactful in our business.
Right.
So for me, and like you said, it's very personal, and it can fluctuate from one day to the next. But for me, in my business, I am always doing a check-in to see how much I feel that my business is a reflection of me. And so there are things that I have, like, did I do a certain number of social media posts that align with my core message? Did I, so you can kind of break down metrics for yourself. And again, everybody's in a different place in business. So what your goals and objectives are going to be very unique and individual to where you are personally, where you are in your business. But there are ways to set up standards and metrics to measure if you are in peak performance and what peak performance is for you. So for me, like I said, it's like, the core message is really, really critical, and marketing is a really important part of being in business, not a part that I loved and embraced in the beginning of my businesses, but something that I've come to recognize as the way to connect with my soulmate clients. So I use that connecting, like that's kind of a feely, right? Like connecting with my soulmate clients, but who doesn't want to work with more clients that they love and resonate with and just connect with and can provide the best service? So if I am doing peak performance in the marketing area of my business, I am attracting a certain number of soulmate clients per month or per week or whatever. That's one example to break it down.
Yeah. I think it might go even deeper than that, because how do you address the person who doesn't really know who they are, what their core values are, and what they want, so that they could even align themselves with that marketing purpose?
Yes, this is a big part of the work that I do with my clients, and a big part I think that every entrepreneur should be doing when they're first setting out on their journey as a service provider or, as a business owner. And it is something that I stumbled into. So I've always been open to coaching. And when I first opened my event planning company, I actually started working with SEO. Was really big at the time. It was kind of just emerging. I started working with an SEO coach, and she started asking me questions about, niching myself down to be very specific about who I serve and why I serve them and how I serve them and how I stand out from my competitors. This is not something that I went into business thinking about. I just was somebody who was organized and could easily pull details together that seemed very overwhelming to a lot of other people. So I just thought I would, take out an ad. I was primarily focused in weddings. I took out an ad with the knot and, just thought they'll come knocking. Yeah. Well, that could not have been further from the truth. No one came knocking, right? I was saying all the same things that everyone else was saying. I was promising to help organize you. I was promising to make it easier. I was promising to make it effortless and beautiful. And these are all the things that an event planner should be promising. This is like, yes, of course you're going to do that for me. But there was nothing really special or distinct. And it wasn't until I worked with her and I realized that I had planned my own wedding in 2 months while my husband was across the country dealing with the loss of his mother, selling his childhood home, in the midst of a lot of trauma, in the midst of a lot of chaos, on a very short timeline. And without any stress. Like, we didn't fight throughout the process. It was easy. People around us were like, you're not a bridezilla, and I would think you would be. That the light bulb finally went off when she asked me these questions, and I started saying, there's an easier way. It doesn't have to take a year. It doesn't have to be stressful, and it doesn't have to cost $1 bajillion. Like, we can do it on budget. We can do it quickly, and we can do it the way that you want. And this is where I started to really hone in on what my message was, in being able to connect people and inspire people by bringing them together for a gathering, but to have the process be an enjoyable one.
Gotcha. So if I'm hearing you correctly, your profit came from your problem.
Yeah. So, and it was in recognizing what the problem was for other people and being able to harness my unique way of addressing that, my own perspective, my own experience, and kind of harnessing that and allowing people to see I have this problem. If you find yourself with a similar problem, then, let's talk, because we have something in common and I can make it easier for you.
Right. Do you know who Ryan Holiday is?
No, I don't.
So he's an author and he wrote a book called The Obstacle is the Way.
Okay.
And it kind of lends to this conversation because he really breaks down how we look at these things as obstacles when really the way is getting through them and then helping other people through them. And once you are able to kind of get through those, well, it's a mindset shift to kind of no longer look at things as an obstacle and look at them as so a way to find a solution and then serve others with the solution. What I would want to understand is, how do you kind of get into that space where you're looking at, like, I have a ton of things right now that look like problems, and I'm trying to frame them right now as, okay, let's get through this. And then how can I help other people get through this too? But even that is just, as an entrepreneur, I'm admitting that I'm having this problem right now. And I'm like, how can I frame this and shift it so that this can ultimately serve someone else and not just serve myself as I'm getting through it, right?
Yeah.
But what is the mindset tool that you need to be able to look at these things as problems when they don't feel good?
Yeah. Well, we're all dealing with that right now, right? There's so much going on in our space, whether we're dealing with, ourselves or people who are sick, or as an entrepreneur, a business that is struggling in these economic times. Like, there is so much going on right now. And it's probably more important than ever to be grounded in our purpose as business owners. And this is actually just came up with a client on a coaching call yesterday. Like, what gets you through these times where you can't see, where things seem so uncertain and you're not sure what to do next? And for me, it's always, always, always grounding into my purpose and being very clear. I have done a lot of work over the years. I mean, the purpose hasn't shifted. My purpose, and it's not a business purpose, it's a purpose as a human being that is to connect and inspire people. That gets me out of bed every day. And that, as you evolve, will evolve in your business as well, right? That I'm not serving the same clients in the beginning as I am now, 15 years later in business. So it has evolved, but there are definitely daily practices that I use to not only, get out of bed every day. So that's the purpose, get you out of bed. But then what when you get out of bed, right? So there are things that I do to get myself into a mindset where I am like pumped to take on the day and reminded and recharged and batteries ready to go. I definitely meditate every morning. I do a good amount of journal writing. Like, I do a quick, maybe at least 5 minutes of journal writing. And that is really like abundance mindset journaling. That's really getting into the headspace of being filled up with my purpose by, the gratitude for the things that I have in my life, the awareness of the joy that I'm able to cultivate right now in every moment, not waiting for, when I hit that revenue marker, or when I get that new client, or when I figure out this problem, then I will be happy, but really being present to my ability to cultivate joy in every single moment. And so when I'm grounded into that place, then I feel like I see things coming at me. One, I feel like I see things coming at me a little more slowly, with a little more time to respond and to react, like with some more elegant and elevated thinking, as opposed to just like, this is an emergency and how can I handle it and get it out of my way? Yeah. I give things the time and the attention that they deserve because I've gotten myself to this very centered and grounded place.
Gotcha. Wow, that's amazing. Good for you.
Good for me. And how do you do it too?
Yeah. No, I mean, good for you. I'm really happy for you that you are able to get to that place. That's a good feeling. It really is. Especially like now in a world where everything happens so fast, it's easier to be reactive than responsive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally happy for you. Trust me. It's just, I want to make sense of it. You know what I mean? Like, my brain kind of works that way too. I can grasp what you're saying, but I also want like a step-by-step process. Like, okay, yeah. I wake up, I get my journal, I write down my I am affirmisms. I get into the swing of things. I prep my mind for what I'm about to do throughout the day. And then something happens that throws a wrench in, and it's just kind of that space between, okay, how am I going to deal with this, and reacting. Like
Yeah.
that's to get a little bit bigger instead of it being so tight and almost like a split second occurrence that and then you don't even realize it's happening until after it's done, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to stop the episode to remind you that you have to go to www.convertedcredit.com. That's www.converted.com, because you need your copy of the book Converted. I know you're a few episodes in by now if you're already listening. And if you're not, you need to go back and listen so you can hear what I'm saying. Every episode, almost every episode, there's credit mentioned because it's important. It's going to follow you forever. It's extremely foundational. Once I learned the importance of credit and how it applies to my life and my business and the growth of my business, I never went back, and I made sure that everyone knew, understood the practical, useful tools that they can use to actually build their credit, repair their credit, and get their credit to where it needs to be, so that you never have to worry about being denied or worried about working through finances as you're trying to build and grow your business. So whatever you do, stop right now, pause that episode, go to www.convertedcredit.com and get your copy now. There's a code, Mental Money, if you want 20% off of the soft cover. I see how I'm easy at making this for you guys. Just go ahead, grab your copy, and then resume the episode. Enjoy.
Yeah. So this is the thing. There's also a really mindful scheduling approach that I have, in that I schedule everything from the place of being. Like, who am I going to be? And, what is this making available in my business and for my clients, right? So I set up my day in advance, and I'm not scheduled like back to back to back to back. I leave room for interruption.
Yeah.
I leave room for stuff to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to use any 4-letter words. But, like, you have to leave that space, right? And even with all of that, right? Like the best laid plans, right? Stuff happens.
Yeah.
So there will be things that come up that throw me off of my game. First of all, I recognize my humanity, and I leave myself room to be upset. I leave myself room to be disappointed. I leave myself room to deal with that and to just be with those feelings, knowing that I have these practices that will ground me, right? That I can always do an extra meditation. I actually do meditate twice a day. I do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. So that's already, again, something that's in place to help me, like, just let the stress roll off, right? But there are those acute situations that happen where there is a reaction. And I definitely like to work with a lot of affirmations, like I think you were saying, where I go to, and my default is being reprogrammed to be something that's more empowering, right? So like something that is happening to me, like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my business? Like, I definitely have little sticky notes all over my computer monitor or in my workspace. I have reminders that pop up that just pop into my experience so that they can start to become my go-to thoughts. Like, nothing happens to me, everything happens for me, right? And when that pops up as a reminder, it's just a quick little, like you were saying, opportunity to not see this as an obstacle, but to see this as a chance to evolve myself, evolve my perspective, evolve my thinking, and really be able to come at this situation from a new perspective. Like, as opposed to this is happening to me and getting into like a victim space, I can see that this is happening for me. And what is this going to provide for me, for my business, for my clients? How will I learn from and grow from this experience?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're priming yourself, and throughout the day, you're kind of getting ahead of even the opportunity to look at these things as obstacles.
Yeah. And it's work. It's a lot of work to reprogram your mindset and your default thinking, and take thoughts that were subconscious, bring them to your conscious awareness, but then to, dissolve them and clear out that clutter so that your go-to thoughts start to become more empowering. But it's worth the work.
Yeah, of course. Why do so many of us struggle with this? Like, it's kind of almost I have not met an entrepreneur yet, especially in the beginning phases, who doesn't go through this. What is it about maybe our society or our parental guidance or lack thereof that kind of lends to the poor mindset that contributes to the fact that we have to go through all this work? Why aren't we like born with this almost?
Yeah, that is such a big question. And I think that many of us, in many ways, are born with this. Like, kids think that so much is possible, and they haven't had enough experience or, made enough decisions about the way that people are or the way that the world is. And, they're pure possibility, right? And I think as we go through life, we make decisions and we kind of start to compartmentalize. And this is very much, human evolution. We just, our brain is hardwired to start to automate things, to make the processes easier, to develop habits, to not have to think so much, right? So that we can handle the new experiences and be available for the thinking that those things require, right? So we start compartmentalizing all these things, and eventually we have all these opinions and all these views about how the world works, the way people are. And, we're carrying all that around, right? And so coaching isn't really about, it's not therapy. It's not about laying down on the couch and, and sometimes you do need to do that, like pass, look at where these decisions came from, look at where this perspective came from, dissolve it to get it out of the way. And sometimes it really is about just noticing, like sometimes the source isn't as important, just noticing that you have a conversation, noticing that you have an opinion, that you have a view. Because as soon as you notice it, as soon as you're aware of it, you have a choice. You have a choice to continue to pick up that default thinking, that default opinion, or to create something new. And if you're someone who's an entrepreneur, you're already on the journey to something bigger than you, right? You want to create something in the world that's bigger than you. And so I would assert that most entrepreneurs really do have the kind of thinking that it's bigger than me. I'm bigger than my problems. I have to evolve for my business to evolve, and that it's worth it, that they get to serve more. They get to have more of an impact. They get to be more of who they are and make more of a difference in the world if they take these challenges and tackle them head on.
Very fair. So what comes first? Is it the personal development, or is it the business, or is it a mix of a little bit of both? Like, should you start your business and then work through the business and the development simultaneously? Because I'm asking this question because I'm afraid that maybe if the development isn't worked on first to some degree, you might bleed all over your business inadvertently. Like, you don't mean to, but it kind of happens. And as an entrepreneur, you're responsible for so many things and so many people. How much space do you really have to make those mistakes,
Yeah. So I think you can come at it from a lot of different entry points. And I think we're all on our own unique path, our own unique journey. And we all have to have our own different experiences. With that said, if you are, kind of new and coming into your business and at the point where you're not sure what to do next, I think that getting really clear, I work with my host method with all of my clients, which is honor your why, own who you truly are, shift your perspective, and take inspired action. So HOST, right? So I guide people through a process of getting really clear about their why they're in business, what makes them tick as a human being, and being able to harness that power and own who they truly are, connected to an infinite source, God, universal energy, whatever you call it, whatever that is for you, but own that co-creative process, own that you are capable of even more than you could possibly imagine. And that will start to create those perspective shifts. That will start to elevate the place from which you are seeing. And then you are living in a place where you are, more harnessing, more filled up, more effervescent, and naturally want to share these gifts, these things that you have to make available in the world.
What was the breaking point for you? What is your why?
So I left a public school teaching job. And at 25 years old, found myself very confused about what I was doing in the world. What was the point of life? Like, what was my purpose? I was really, I mean, some people call it your quarter life crisis because that's like become a thing now, right? So I was really asking a lot of those, deep human questions. And I just was devouring, personal development books, self-help books, seminars. I was doing a lot of coaching. I was working with everything and anything that I could to gain clarity and insight about really what I was here to do on the planet. Mm-hmm. And for me, I arrived at the purpose of being someone who's here to connect and inspire. That is something that just moves me. It calls me forth in the world. And so for me, that was the entry point to then being able to take this. Now, I had owned a business before that, but it was without really a why. It was definitely more self-centered and about like what I love doing in the world, but not a super generous, place that I was coming from. I then shifted into a place of, using what I'm here for to make this a better experience, a better life for everyone that I come in contact with. And that lights me up.
Do you have any kids?
I do. I have a 5-year-old daughter.
A daughter. Okay. So assuming you want her to be an entrepreneur, or assuming she becomes an entrepreneur, right? What is the first thing that you would teach her so that she can kind of get a handle on this mindset stuff really early and set her up for success?
Yeah. So whether she's an entrepreneur or not, I definitely make an effort to have her get that who she's being in the world will impact everything, right? Like who we are being will it then affect our thoughts, which will then affect our actions, which will then affect our outcomes. So it really all starts with who we're being. And, I do the kind of work that I do, but I didn't have this as a child. And so I'm excited to be able to, she's 5 years old and she's just able to keep a secret. Like she can get her mantra and start doing a walking meditation now, to give these tools to a kid. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. Yeah. I'm just like excited to stay tuned.
Right. Is she exhibiting any signs of like it actually landing, like making sense to her?
Yeah, she says stuff that's so wise. I'm like, what? Where did that come from? Yeah. She's super open and also I don't do this in a vacuum. My husband also meditates. And so she wants to meditate. She, kind of like pretends and mimics and, so she'll have access to this stuff, but at the same time, it's her choice. She's on her own path. And I really get that. So it'll be interesting to see what she embraces, what works for her and what she chooses to do with it. But awesome. She does walk around with my old business card saying, I'm in business. What kind of business are you in, sweetie? Business. That's it.
That's so cute. So Andrea, if we wanted to find you online, if we needed to get our mindset right, how do we get in touch with you?
So if you want to stay in touch, you can join my mailing list at AndreaFreemanConsulting.com. If you want to see and be in on the conversation and, just see what I'm talking about, hear more of what this is all about, then Instagram is probably the best place. That's my happy place where I hang out. And that is Andrea Freeman _Insta.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. I know I got like a little boost. I got like a little jolt, the jolt I needed for the day. You're like my first call for today. So this is a good starting place. So I really appreciate your time.
Amazing. I'm so happy to be able to share that stuff with you. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mental Money Podcast. Please go ahead and remember to subscribe, but don't hoard all of this good information for yourself. Share this information with someone that you know could use it, especially if they need a shift in their mindset or someone who would love to have more money. So until we meet again, remember, like Uncle Snoop said, keep your mind on your money and your money on your mind.